Good morning, Nova Church. My name is Matt Fisk, and I am going to be bringing to you week 3, the weekly Devo for week 3 of our February Focus Month, Kingdom Come. And I have the weird one, the week entitled Kingdom and Outsiders. It's the one that doesn't really make sense for the rest of the month. But as we get into it, I think it's so important that we really get this one. And Kingdom and Outsiders, what we're going to be talking about this week is expanding our mindset about the value of people in the kingdom of God. So you start to think for just a second that the people reading the book of Mark probably lived in Rome. And the kingdom of Rome, the empire of Rome, it was made up of rich and powerful people who were the highest of the high, and then everybody else who was poor and low. And the more you were in the higher echelons, the more power, the more money you had, the more valuable you were to that kingdom. And if you were poor, nobody really cared. And that's kind of how it still is now. The insiders in whatever organization, whether it's your job, whether it's a team, whether it's at school, there's always insiders and there's outsiders. People on the outside looking in, maybe wishing they were part of it, but people that are excluded for whatever reason, and then the people that are inside. I know I've been there several times, always when I was on the outside, looking in, wanting to be part of that. And this can be a lot of different people, this can be a lot of different types, but what we're going to look at here is the way that Jesus looks at people who are quote unquote on the outside of society and on the outside of the religious area of the time. And we have to take a look at what does the kingdom of God look like for people that are traditionally outsiders. So we're going to take a look at Matthew 25, and starting here in verse 34. And the context of this is it's a parable Jesus is telling. And at this point in the parable, God is on his throne, and he is separating people, the sheep and the goats, the righteous and the unrighteous. And so we pick up here in verse 34 while he's doing that. It says, "Then the king will say to those on his right, 'Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world.'" That's amazing. Stop for a second. That's incredible. The kingdom was prepared for you. What is it? What was the righteousness that they did to make the kingdom belong to them since the foundations of the earth? Verse 35, "For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me." And then the righteous will answer, saying, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and visit you?" And then the king will answer them, "Truly, I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers, you did it to me." That is absolutely incredible. That one of the marks of being part of the kingdom of God is an unknowing compassion for people on the outside, the fringes of society. And according to Jesus, when our eyes are open to these kind of people and we go to serve these kind of people out of the goodness of our hearts, we actually are serving God himself. And what that does is that turns the entire model of how things are supposed to work in an organization or a kingdom. It's not about the strong. It's prioritizing those who are weakest, those who are the lowest, those who are the outsiders. And I think this is a concept most of us are familiar with, that Jesus turns the kingdom upside down. He turns the values upside down. And we can all get behind that. That's a great theological point. And come on, Jesus, that sounds fantastic. But the truth is, for me, and my guess is for most of us, this takes a lot more effort and work than I'm really willing to put in most of the time. We live in Northern Virginia. Two of the richest counties in the country are located here. Most of us are doing pretty well. And you know what? We're busy. We've got a lot of stuff going on. Whether it's in your job, whether it's in your school, whether it is in your neighborhood, whether it's just in your house. There's so much going on, and it's so easy to get distracted and take care of what's right here, right in front of you. And we don't really have the bandwidth. I know for me, like, and I mentioned this before, but I mean, how difficult it is to get outside. We have a 6-month-old, and she has got a lot of health issues. And for me, it takes a lot of my bandwidth just to take care of what's going on in my house, let alone care about people on the outside. And more than that, caring about people that have needs that are not just like, here, that let me, offer you a cup of sugar, let me give you a ride to the airport. That these are problems that are so deep. These are people that are hungry and naked and in prison. Do I even care? Do I care about those people? Maybe in theory. But do I even think about these people? And I think we have to ask ourselves that question. Is that even on my radar? And I don't say this to shame anybody. The point of this month and this week is to expand our horizons, expand our focus, to open up our eyes. Maybe we have some incredible servants in this church. We need to imitate them. But all of us, imagine just for a second if we took this week to really open up our eyes to look for people who are on the outside. And this could be people that are poor and needy that you know in your neighborhood, or people that you know around where you work. This can be giving more to the poor contribution. This could be about serving in a homeless shelter or handing out sandwiches to homeless people. But it also can mean, just think about this. Jesus talks about, you came to visit me in prison. For the most part, to my shame, when I think of people in prison, I'm like, well, let's talk about rehabilitation. Let's talk, maybe justice. But do we have that heart? Do I have that heart? I don't think the way that Jesus is talking about. And so I need to grow. My amazing wife, she's in a pen pal program with people that she writes back and forth letters to inmates in prisons so they can have some human contact, which is, I think, incredible. But it can also be wherever you are, there's always going to be insiders and outsiders in every society, because that's how we are as people. There's always somebody at school who eats lunch by themselves. There's always that person at work who is kind of on the outside that people don't really talk to as much. There's always somebody in our context that's on the inside and on the outside. And in Jesus' kingdom, it's the ones on the outside that he wants to bring closest. He wants to say, these are the people that we care about the most because no one else is. That's the mark of the kingdom of God. How incredible is that? And how challenging that is. But just imagine for a second if we were to actually do this. If our church was all about bringing those who are on the inside closest and taking care of them, on the outside and bringing them to the inside, taking care of them the most, we would look very, very different than anything else. Yeah, we wouldn't be considered the sharpest. We wouldn't be considered the most successful group or successful church full of movers and shakers. Maybe we would. But when God would look at us, he'd be like, that's my kingdom. I think the challenge for definitely me, and I invite all of us, is to open up our eyes and to take some of the challenges, to go and actually do something, to at least open our hearts. Maybe it is opening our wallets. It is opening our time to helping people on the outside feel the love, the same love that people have on the inside, because God cares about them just as much. And remember, the things that we do for the least of these brothers and sisters of Jesus's, we do for him. So let's do that. Have a great week, and we'll see you later.